What's going on, guys? Before the inaugural episode of Shot for Shot, I do want to throw out that while editing Shot for Shot and getting it ready to be sent out today, Kyrie Irving has requested a trade. So there is no Kyrie Irving trade talk throughout this video because we recorded it yesterday before Kyrie Irving had requested said trade. But without further ado, let's move on to the very first episode of Shot for Shot. Welcome to the first episode of the Shot for Shot podcast, where two friends are going to talk about basketball while drinking some brewskis and just, I don't know, talk about basketball. I don't really have much of a better intro to tell you that we're just going to be casually talking about basketball, no advanced stats, nothing that casual fan won't understand. We're just going to be talking about the NBA, and shoot, maybe at some point we'll get into the WNBA, but that's for further episodes of the podcast. On today's episode, he was formerly known on TikTok as Basketball Alert. Now, I forget what his original handle is, but it'll be on the screen. He is now known as the guy that says, "You better not let me catch you doing that again." He's a true alpha male, David Daniel. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. You got your Truly with you today? All right, I was going to ask you what you're drinking. I have a Sex on the Beach. It's such an awkward name when you're asking for it at a restaurant because you got to tell the dude, "I want Sex on the Beach." But I got a Sex on the Beach from a Mexican restaurant that I was at earlier today. And then once I run out of that, I'm going to be swapping to Pink Whitney. Barstool doesn't sponsor this podcast, but who knows? Maybe Pink Whitney will eventually. But today, obviously, the trade deadline comes up in what day is it? The second? It comes up in 7 days.
1 week from today.
1 week from today. So obviously, we got to talk about some trades that not necessarily that we think are going to happen because the trade deadline's unpredictable. Last year, we thought it was going to be boring, and then Kevin Durant asked for a trade. So God knows what the hell could happen. But we're going to be talking about trades that we think teams should make. And we each prepared three. I have no idea what he wrote. And I'm sure that he has no idea what I wrote, except for one of them, because I probably spoiled it. But, David, I'm going to let you go first. I want to hear what trades you came up with.
Okay, so I originally had a different one, but then I was talking to my Lakers friend, and he gave me a trade. And I really liked it. It was OG Anunoby to the Lakers for those two picks that they're holding on to willingly, and Lonnie Walker, of course, whatever they need to do, add a second round and make the money work. But OG Anunoby, 24 years old, 3-and-D guy. I love what he can do. Toronto's not utilizing him. And, I mean, those Laker picks are deadly, man. So I think Toronto should pull the trigger.
Absolutely. I personally, I will say that I have him getting traded to a different team later in the notes or the trades that I created. I'm glad that we were both on the same page, and we know that OG Anunoby needs to get the fuck out of Toronto because he's a fourth option on a team that is ass. Like, they're bad. So I agree to the extent. I don't know about the Lakers, though. I don't ever like the idea of the Lakers getting more players because, I mean, I am an ex-Celtics fan. I was until I was, 8 years old, 9 years old, whatever, after the 2009 season. And you are a current Celtics fan. Do you think that makes the Celtics any better? I mean, the Lakers.
I mean, yeah, with the addition of Hachimura, and like I said, they have no one for their future. What, Reeves? And he's even like 25, I think, 26. Like, they have nobody to build around after LeBron and AD.
I do agree, especially because, LeBron's beating time itself because he's 38 now, year 20. Pulling some bullshit about to break the all-time record, which we will get into later. But I don't know. I like the idea because especially it does give you a younger guy. But the only pushback I would have, I guess, is the picks because I understand why they're holding on to him. I know LeBron, reshared the LA Rams thing that was like fuck them picks and said my kind of GM. What was that, a year ago? But yeah. It's a little interesting to me because, like you said, they have no future. So eventually they got to be able to build a future or else they're going to be stuck in the mess that Brooklyn has been stuck in the last couple of years, which is, free agency. And can you get free agents to come to your team? But on the other end, of course, the Lakers are what is the third biggest market in all of basketball, maybe the second.
And yeah, I mean, although it hurts as a Celtics fan, and I don't want it to happen, it just made so much sense. Like, why would you give those picks up for Turner and Buddy Hield when you have a guy that's probably better than both of them?
Absolutely. And I also just don't think not Buddy Hield, but Miles Turner is going to end up getting traded. He is trade eligible, according to Bobby Marks, with his new renegotiation and extension.
Not that much more money, though.
I know. Interesting renegotiation, for sure. And of course, as a Mavericks fan, it hurts a little bit because we were hoping to get him because obviously he was a very, very trade friendly contract. I mean, what was it? $13 million and now it's 17, I believe, or something along those
It
lines.
was 17 and a half, and now I believe it's 22.
Okay. So something along those lines. I mean, for that kind of caliber player, I always felt like that was a steal. But as a Mavericks fan, yeah, that hurts. That he did get extended just because, it's going to make the Mavericks a lot less likely to trade for him considering he's so expensive now. But I'll go ahead and give you my trade. And, like I said, I'm a Mavericks fan. So this first one is biased. I don't give a shit. Leave the comments or whatever. It's biased. Okay. I think a good trade for the Dallas Mavericks would be Zach LaVine and Andre Drummond to the Dallas Mavericks. And Andre Drummond's just there for, cap reasons and because I like Andre Drummond a lot. For Christian Wood, Dorian Finney-Smith, and JaVale McGee. If you want to throw picks in there, I don't care. The ESPN trade machine didn't have picks, so I didn't throw picks in there. But you could probably make the case for the picks to go either way, but it allows the Mavericks to get Luka some more help. If you've ever seen Mavericks Twitter, all we ever say is get Luka some help. And it also gives a great offensive player in Zach LaVine. Is he going to add to the defense? Absolutely not. But we're giving up our best defender easily in Dorian Finney-Smith in this trade, but we still have, a bunch of other solid defenders to go around him. Spencer Dinwiddie's a decent perimeter defender. Dwight Powell tries his very, very best on defense, and it's not always the best. But Maxi Kleber, he's a solid interior defender. Reggie Bullock is out there. We have some solid defenders. So giving up our best defender for an even better offensive player doesn't seem too bad to me. Plus, Mavericks Twitter, once again, we always are begging for a center. Let's trade 6'11 Christian Wood for what is he? He might be 6'11 as well, Andre Drummond, but he's much more of a pure center.
Yeah, I mean that move it's unique. I'll be honest with you. My issue with that is if I'm the Bulls and I'm looking to trade somebody, it would be DeRozan over LaVine just because of the age gap. But if Zach LaVine's really because like they have DeRozan and Vooch on expiring contracts, so I feel like moving one of those two before they touch LaVine would be more like logical in that sense. And I believe like the pieces that the Mavericks have is like their problem is they add stuff, but they also lose stuff. Like they got Christian Wood, Brunson leaves. They're getting LaVine, Wood leaves. So it's like you need multiple pieces. And like I said, I love Christian Wood. I think he fits perfect on that team. But I mean, if the trade is open, yeah, if I'm on the Mavericks, I would do it if that was even remotely available.
And I agree to an extent with that. But the other end is, if the Bulls are to get Christian Wood, they're getting, what is he? He's only 26, I think. He has been on seven different teams. He's younger. He's been on 7 different teams. We've seen him improve. We know he can improve. And especially on the Mavericks, we've seen him finally not be a locker room problem, which is a breath of fresh air because whether it's the Pistons or whether it's the Rockets, shit, even the 76ers had reports come out of him being a bad teammate. But on the Mavericks, we haven't heard that. Is that because Luka yells at him a lot? Probably. But someone's finally put him in his place and made him understand that he can't be the teammate that he has been. So I don't know. I feel like it's a decent trade both ways because I don't know why the trade rumors are coming out about LaVine. Maybe he's unhappy in Chicago. I don't remember or know how these trade rumors started, but he's been in a lot of rumors lately. So yeah. I can agree you wouldn't want to trade LaVine over DeRozan, but at the same time, are the Bulls in win now mode or are they retooling? Like, what even are the Bulls at this moment? Because they're waiting for Lonzo to come back, but God knows. I mean, he was supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and he's been out a year.
Hello?
Oh, hello. We lost him for a second. Did you
Yeah,
hear my last? Did you hear my last part?
Yeah. And I see where you're coming from for Zach LaVine and stuff because he's not having his best season remotely compared to what we were used to seeing. So I see where you're coming from with that one. And I don't know what they're doing. The Lonzo Ball situation really is messing him up right now.
Yeah, it is. And it saddens me a little bit because I'm pouring my Whitney now because I've already drank my Sex on the Beach. Where was I at? I don't know. I don't know where the Bulls are either at or trying to be at. That's my biggest issue with the Bulls is like At first, you remember when they first got this team, which is Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine, and we were like, shit. I mean, Alonzo Ball, we were like, shit, this team's pretty good. And then they started off, it was and Vooch. And this was what, last year that this all happened?
Yeah. They traded for Vooch, and then the offseason they got DeRozan and Caruso.
Exactly. And then they came out starting last year. We were like, this team could make a run at the finals. And then just fell apart. They lost Lonzo. And like I said earlier, he was supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and he's been out almost a full year, maybe a full year.
But just about. It was around this time.
I'm just curious if the Bulls are still in the state of we're trying to win a championship, or if they're like, we need to retool, because obviously Lonzo goes out, your whole offense falls apart. I mean, he is your starting point guard, but Lonzo's not that great of a player, if we're being 100% honest. So your whole offense shouldn't fall apart because your starting point guard goes away.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I think they don't make any major moves this trade deadline. But if they are first, or if they don't make the playoffs, or they're a first round exit, they're gonna do something in the offseason.
And I would love to see that. It's Chicago. It shouldn't be too hard to get, a big name free agent. Michael Jordan saved that entire franchise and the NBA while he was at it. So at this point, they're a free agent market. If you're a free agent, they're one of those top 10 teams that, like, if they hand you a contract for the same amount of money as, let's say, is the fucking Orlando Magic, like, you're going to take the Bulls over the Orlando Magic every single time, just because it is a common, like, style thing. If you're not a Bulls fan, just to wear Bulls gear. I was looking at Bulls gear earlier today. I don't give a shit about that team, but they're like a style and fashion icon because of Jordan. Now, Young Masuk, are you familiar with him? He's the ESPN Lakers reporter.
Yeah.
Super awesome guy. I'm going to preface this. Super awesome guy. I've met him. Met him through Zoom. He's wonderful. Has awesome shoe game. If you've ever looked at his Instagram, he posts his shoes all the time. He's wearing different shoes, it seems like, every single day, and I absolutely love that about him. He came up with a Mavericks trade that I'm going to preface by saying I'm not a big fan of. Love you, if you ever see this, but I do, as a Mavericks fan, disagree with this trade, and it is a trade that is Bojan Bogdanovic to the Mavericks, and this isn't one of my trades. I just wrote this as like a side thing. Bojan Bogdanovic to the Mavericks for Christian Wood and 2 picks. One's a first round, one's a second round. First and foremost, I don't want Bojan for the style of our team. And I don't mean, like play style. I mean, the dude looks like a 45-year-old with 3 kids and a fucking 401k. I don't like the way he's aged, but he is, what is he, 33? And if we're going to get Luka some help, I know he's in his 30s. If we're going to get Luka some help, it's got to be somebody who's 27 years old or younger. And that's because Luka, if he's on the Mavericks, they're going to be a playoff team. I don't care. However long he is good, which I'm sure is going to be a very long time, if he's on the Mavericks, they're a playoff team. So we need to get him a young, like, star. Like, there was Kobe and Shaq. Shaq was a couple years older, but they were both young when they first got together. And then now it's Luka and Christian Wood, both young. And if we're going to give up Christian Wood for anything, we need to get him a co-star that isn't 33 years old. That's just my take on it, though. What are you thinking about that?
He is averaging almost 21 points a game, and I get it. His longevity is not. It's at its point. So I think that's tremendously a lot for him. I think a first rounder, maybe another piece. Like, if it was a first round pick and Dorian Finney-Smith, then yeah, I would do that for the Mavericks. And then it gives you wiggle room to do another move. But I don't think he's worth that much. And I know Mavericks are desperate, but they're not. They shouldn't be that desperate.
I agree. And I understand where the trade was coming from, for the most part.
They're interested in him, though. That's why he probably made the trade.
That too, and I knew that we're interested in him. And the other part of it that I don't like about that trade is it'd be sending Christian Wood back to the Pistons. Which, if you remember his departure from the Pistons, that was a shit show. They hate him. I don't know if the same GM is still there that used to be there when Christian Wood was there, but I guarantee you, if anybody on that staff had Christian Wood on that team and was there when Christian Wood was on the team, they don't want him back. So I just don't feel like we're going to be able to trade Christian Wood there. Now, like you said, Dorian Finney-Smith, he is my girlfriend's favorite player. She loves him. And I I don't know why. Maybe he's hot. I don't know. I don't swing that way, so I would have no idea. But she loves Dorian Finney-Smith, and she's gonna be on.
He's in that like maybe not a here's a role player and then here's like a little bit above that. I like him. I don't think he's worth like 2 first round picks, but I mean he's a good trade asset to have on your team.
I think he's worth a first round pick just because how old is he? He's 26, 27, still young enough. I don't know. Hold on, I'm gonna Google his full age because I don't want to be fully wrong.
He's better than Dwight Powell. No
can offense. I get no offense taken. I've been on the trade Dwight Powell train for a long time. He's 29 actually, so maybe he's not worth a first round pick. But no, I don't know.
He's one at least, but
he
I don't be. There was a report that came out that they want 2 or 3. I think it was.
That's just the unrealistic, And to be fair, how often does a report come out that like this team wants this many picks, and how often do they get them when the GM's name is not Danny Ainge? Like it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, and you know whose fault it is? Rudy Gobert.
Can I get an amen on that? All right, so the Zoom recording has a grand total of 9 minutes and 52 seconds left. So why don't you tell me your next trade?
So I originally had one, but since you did a biased one, I'm going to go with a biased one. Okay. I want Pirtle in Boston. With Grant Williams probably on his way. Grant Williams wants $20 million a year. Celtics are not giving him that. I don't think anyone will. I think just having him on that team, we do have Peyton Pritchard, young shooter, and maybe we put Grant Williams in the deal, but just having Jakob Poeltl, I think he's 26, 27, if I'm wrong, along with the rotation with Horford and Williams, which Horford doesn't play back-to-backs. So Blake Griffin has to start, and I hate Blake Griffin. So I think Jakob Poeltl, we have a good shot at re-signing him as well, and he would be a good spot for the future. And just having another defensive like monster on that team, I like it.
100%. And I think it actually increases the Celtics trade value, or not trade value, but market value, because Ja Morant's going to dunk on you every single time he plays because Jakob Poeltl is his favorite person to dunk on for some reason. He's dunked on him twice now, one last season, which was the dunk of last season, and then one this season, which you could argue is the dunk of this season if you don't count Aaron Gordon's dunk, which I think is that much more impressive. But I like that deal. I think Jakob Poeltl's going to get moved. I think he would be a solid either backup playing high minutes or a starting center on any championship caliber team. I mean, he's good. He's really underrated, someone we don't ever talk about. So I like the trade. So who did you say that the Celtics would trade for him?
I don't know his contract off the back. Yeah. But, so, I mean, if Grant Williams is on his way out, they should consider Grant Williams, but also we have Pritchard and Houston, and we have picks, like take our picks. And like I said, Spurs don't necessarily want young players back. They want Wembanyama. So that's why I think he is going to undersell. But as long as Celtics are giving, I think he's worth 2 first-round picks. I think Brad can make the move because like his first year in office, brought Al Horford back, got Brogdon, signed Gallinari. So I think if there was a move he could do, it's that one to go big. If not, I think he makes like a small adjustment, but they are getting some size by deadline.
I agree with that, especially with them getting at some point some size at the deadline because, Al Horford and Blake Griffin and maybe Robert Williams when he's healthy being your starting center. It's just, I mean, you could probably win a championship with that, but it's not going to be easy. And I'm sure it would give the Celtics a whole lot of breath if that they're starting center on their back-to-backs, or whether he was just a starting center in general, and you move Al Horford to the 4, Tatum to the 3, you knock someone out of the starting lineup. I don't know. I kind of like that trade a lot. I haven't thought about Jakob Poeltl to the Celtics actually.
Yeah, I just don't want him to go to the Nets, and also I've grown on Luke Kornet, but when it comes to defense, he doesn't try. It feels like. And like when he has the ball in the paint, he doesn't go up with them. Like, you're taller than everybody. Go.
Right. Can we please talk about, while we have Luke Kornet on our minds, that fucking like in the paint jump he does at 3-point shooters?
Like, it's my favorite. Like, yeah, he's size, but like, and with 5 minutes up in the fourth quarter, he has to sit down. And it's like, if Robert Williams is hurt, Al Horford's sitting out on a back-to-back. Like, Blake Griffin, I'm sorry. Like, he's so weird because like he's not in the rotation, but when Al Horford is out, he starts. Like, it makes no sense.
I agree. So before I give you my next trade, Here's a quick word from our sponsor. It's really not the sponsor of the podcast. It's the sponsor of my personal TikTok and my personal YouTube channel, Jersey Frost. Here's a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. This is me recording this the day after I filmed this podcast, and I can tell you I'm not enjoying it anymore. But let me tell you about the sponsor of today's podcast. The sponsor of the podcast is Jersey Frost. If you've never heard of Jersey Frost, they sell really high quality jerseys for a really low price of $40. You couldn't tell me whether this Donovan Mitchell jersey was real or not, because I mean it's got all the tags and all that, and you can get it from Jersey Frost for $40. And if you use code Crafty at checkout, you get an additional 10% off. So like you get money off jerseys and you get cool jerseys for a cheap price. Wow. It's official that the aftermath of this podcast has gotten to me, so let's just go right back in with the podcast. And thank you for that word from our sponsor, Jersey Frost. All right, so I got some water during that little break to hydrate a little bit because I've been mixing liquors apparently tonight, and I've heard tequila and vodka don't go well together. And tonight, I guess I thought I would change that rule, but we're going on to the third trade or fourth. I don't know. It's my second. And the trade that I wanted to offer up to you to see if you thought it was as good as I did is OG Anunoby and Juancho Hernan Gomez, Bo fucking Cruz to New York, and not the Brooklyn Nets, obviously, I mean the New York Knicks, for Mitchell Robinson and Cam Reddish to Toronto. I will first add that the Knicks, how many minutes has Cam Reddish played for the Knicks in total? Maybe 75. I feel like I never see this man play in any Knicks game ever. So he's just for contracts. If Toronto wants to use them, use him, that is all on them. Because I don't think I've ever seen the Knicks use that man. But Toronto is out a center right at this exact moment. I think their starting center is who? Ken Birch? I didn't know he existed until I was making the notes for this podcast. Like, Ken Birch, seriously? He's all right. I actually have heard of him. That was more to be exaggerative. He is all right. But obviously, wouldn't you rather have Mitchell Robinson, who is a 24-year-old, I believe, and an elite shot blocker? It seems like he's been in trade rumors since LeBron entered the league. The 12-year-old Mitchell Robinson was getting trade offers at that point. I have even his rookie year. They were like, maybe they should trade Mitchell Robinson because the Knicks don't use him either. And maybe that's a Tom Thibodeau thing. But the Knicks, he's injured right now. But as of the rest of his career, he's maybe played as many minutes as Cam Reddish. And that's obviously an exaggeration, but they don't use the dude. And it makes me mad because he's just that good. And then OG Anunoby to the Knicks. He is a perimeter wing defender and is a super solid offensive talent. He's averaging, if I remember from Sports Center with SVP the other night, he's averaging 17 points per game, 16.9, whatever. And he doesn't love being the fourth option on a team that is shitty. But the Knicks are a lot less shitty than they usually are. They might actually get a playoff spot this year. And he would be option 2A on the Knicks. And his 2A would be with RJ Barrett, whoever decides to go off that night. But RJ Barrett's inconsistent as shit. You also get a consistent scorer in OG Anunoby who actually does what he's supposed to do. And then the Juancho Hernan Gomez. He was mainly for contracts when I was putting this in the trade machine. But let's think about one thing. Hustle is a good-ass movie. If you haven't seen Hustle yet and you're listening to this, David, if you haven't seen Hustle, watch the fucking movie.
I saw it. Good one.
It is a good movie. And Juancho Hernan Gomez can act. He acts much better than Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards was super solid in that movie, much better than LeBron or Michael Jordan ever were in either of their respective Space Jams. But Juancho was good. And if he was going to land another acting job while playing basketball, it's either in LA or New York. And he sure as hell ain't going to LA. I don't see a trade for that. I don't see him ever playing minutes in LA if he were to go to LA. So why not go to New York, where Broadway is there? They film a shit ton of movies in New York. So personally, I think that is probably the best trade the Knicks are able to give up assets for on the trade deadline. I mean, Jalen Brunson is obviously going to be your number one scorer. OG's not going to be the number one scorer on that team, but they're a good team that could use some re-weaponing, retooling, whatever the shit. what did I just say? Whatever the hell you want to call it. And I think, getting someone like OG Anunoby is going to help them out a lot. I mean, plus it's another wing defender, which they kind of lack. I don't know specifically the exact Knicks roster off the exact top of my head, but I can't think of a really solid wing defender besides Cam Reddish who plays for them. And oh, wait, they don't use the dude. So I don't know. I would love to hear how you feel about Cam Reddish and Mitchell Robinson for OG Anunoby and Bo fucking Cruz.
Okay, so for New York, I love the move for them. Like I said, they do have assets. Like I said, I think they're willing to trade D Rose as well. So Toronto wanted him too.
No, put him on
Um,
the Mavs.
but Knicks have a lot of like pieces that are good. Like Grimes, I don't know. He's been very solid. Quickly stepped up. Randall's there, and I think adding a guy like OG Anunoby would escalate them as well. For the Raptors, if we're talking about not utilizing point guards, they have a point guard they don't even touch when VanVleet sits, and that's Malachi Flynn, which I do see potential in Malachi Flynn. So if they're not using Malachi Flynn, I doubt they want to use Reddish. So I don't like it for Toronto, but I do like it for New York. And like I said, that's just preference. But I mean, I don't know where Cam Reddish would fit behind Fred VanVleet unless VanVleet is moved. But for New York, it would put them up there in the standings. I think they would be better than Heat, better than Bulls, and possibly better than the Hawks.
Well, I understand from that perspective, but Cam Reddish, like I said, I kind of just threw him in there for contracts. If they want to use him, then shit. I mean, don't use him if you don't want to. The Knicks never did. The Hawks never did. I mean, what other team is going to use him at this point? So maybe he'll be one of those players that were like, what could have been, because no one ever used the dude because they never saw him play basketball other than in college. So Cam Reddish isn't the main part. The main part is pairing Mitchell Robinson with Pascal Siakam. It would take a lot of defensive effort off of Pascal Siakam. Will allow Siakam to cook for his 25 points per game, which is crazy this year. Shout out to Pascal Siakam for putting up such numbers. I don't know. I understand your pause on Cam Reddish, but Cam Reddish wasn't the usable piece in this trade. It was more Mitchell Robinson.
I get that. Even Mitchell Robinson, bro. Like we're talking about Robert Williams not being healthy. Mitchell Robinson's never healthy. He used to be in the starting lineup very much. And like I said, he didn't have many options when he was a free agent. So he had to go back to New York. So I think he needs to stay healthy. But for Toronto, I mean, if they want to I don't think Toronto cares right now. It's like they're like the Bulls. They don't know what they're doing with all their pieces. So I mean, I like the move, and if they use Mitch Robinson, I think it would be very deadly for them, and
100%.
they could get into the play-in.
I do agree with what you said about Malachi Flynn, by the way, because I think it was either the end of last year or the end of the year before where they were in the playoffs, or they were either in or out of the playoffs. I don't remember, but they sat all of their starters pretty much and let their bench players cook. And Malachi Flynn, I believe in the one game that I watched, put up like 32 points. And he is a solid player that, if developed correctly, could be their new starting point guard, which could potentially be the reason that Kyle Lowry, the dump truck himself, is in trade rumors. So who knows? I don't know for sure on that one. But I do agree with what you're saying. They're another team who has a player that could potentially be an all-star if developed correctly, who they're just not using. So I would love to hear your next trade.
Yeah, and then one thing to point out is VanVleet sat out one game and Malachi Flynn still didn't start. I don't know who they started, but I know Malachi Flynn didn't. So I was like, what are y'all doing? For the final move that I thought of, it was a team that was just in the finals. Not that, their best player's been out for 5 weeks. They have a 40-year-old point guard. He's not 40, but I think the Suns do something. They have to do something. Because at their rate, they've already messed up enough. They have to go with what they have. So I was thinking either Jordan Clarkson from Utah for Jordan Clarkson from Utah for Cam Johnson and maybe a pick or whatever to make the money work, or Eric Gordon from Houston. But I'm just going to go Jordan Clarkson to the Suns.
Okay.
Because they need some scoring. They need to do something because the Suns are just like not it right now.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of it does have to do with Devin Booker being out the last year in 7 months, which is an exaggeration. I feel like I'm going to have to point that out every time, or else I'm going to get one comment. It's like, what the fuck? Devin Booker's been out for like 3 weeks. Whatever. Devin Booker's been out for a while. I bet on Chris Paul to get 10 points last night, and he got, 6? I don't even know. After the first half, he had one free throw. He missed his second one. And I thought Chris Paul, being the 38th greatest scorer of all time, and I only know that from watching TV, is that he is the 38th all-time leading scorer. You would think 10 points should be easy. Especially with Devin Booker out, 10 points should be easy. So I agree. And through Howdy Partners, the hit show on NBA, on ESPN, YouTube, which I produced, by the way, not to brag on myself, but I just want to throw that out there. I believe, I forget who was on that episode. Oh, it was Brian Windhorst was on that episode with him. Tim McMahon and Brian Windhorst talked about Utah's untouchables and the kind of trades that they can make. And Jordan Clarkson was mentioned as one of the non-untouchables, one of the players they're willing to trade. And he's still good enough to where he could contribute on a team like the Phoenix Suns. So I like the trade. I really do.
Yeah, and like I said, Suns have messed up a lot in the past, choosing Ayton over Luka. I will never forgive that, just because they didn't have. If they got Luka, they wouldn't have to trade for a 36-year-old Chris Paul. And then, Ayton almost left. So I mean, the Suns are just in a hole where they have to work with what they have. So that's why I think they make one move, and that's why I also said Eric Gordon, because they're going to do something. I don't know what it is, but the Suns, if they want to even be eligible to compete and make a run, they need to do something.
100%. And they also have a very tradable asset who decided he's not going to fucking play for them in Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder is available to be traded. He's healthy. He's practicing, or he's staying fit at least, and he's ready to be traded. He's pulling a John Wall. He's saying, I'm not playing for you guys. And he's willing to be traded at any moment. And he's a solid trade piece.
Yeah, they want 2 first-rounders from him. I think it's too much. And I mean, the Bucks tried to get him, and they said they don't want Grayson Allen. I'm like, son, you don't have any place to be picky right now. He's a good asset, but no one's begging on their door for Jay Crowder.
Absolutely. I mean, he would be a solid defensive piece. We've both known, as you're a Celtics fan and I'm a Mavericks fan, 2 teams that Jay Crowder's been on. He doesn't have to score 10 points for his presence to be felt. He'll go out there. He's a mean player. He's a super solid defender. He's rough. He's a very physical defender. Opening, what is that, your second truly? I respect it. He's a mean defender, and he's angry, and he is petty as shit. Let's not forget, when he was on the Grizzlies, he said, let me pop this 3 when we're up by, 20? He said, let me pop this 3 real quick. And that didn't rub people the right way, but that's just the kind of guy Jay Crowder is. And you need one of those guys to be a contender. Not saying Utah would be a contender in this instance, or the Rockets, but no team's going to be mad at having a Jay Crowder in there.
Yeah, so take out Cameron Johnson, add Jay Crowder, and I'm pretty sure Utah will just waive him anyway, as long as they're getting a pick out of it.
And then he's a free agent.
Yeah, and then any Bucks can get him because Bucks really want him for some reason. I would take him back in Boston. He's going to have suitors.
100%. And then you don't even have to give up anybody to get him, in the sense that he goes into free agency, except for, a couple $1 million. Which I believe the way that works is if you pick up a waived player, you have to pick up their contract if it's not within the first couple days. So maybe he would sit in free agency for a little bit, but he'd get signed to a team.
I thought they buy you out.
Or he could be bought out, or he could be waived. There is just a way of being just you know what? You pissed me off. You're off the team. But yes, there is a way to be bought out, and that way you don't have to pick up the contract.
I don't know how much. I think it's $10 million.
I'm willing to bet it's about that much. So let me give you my third trade. In my third trade is one I haven't seen in rumors. I've seen that this player is in the market to be traded. Whether he is an asset that is, for sure to be traded, or whether he could end up on the team, I don't know. It's like a 50-50 coin toss to me. I'm talking about a trade around Matisse Thybulle, and everybody loved his bubble vlogs. Come on, let's be honest. The bubble vlogs were heat. His social media presence is heat, but his defense, that's what's heat. You don't pick up Matisse Thybulle because he can average, what does he average? 11 points per game, more than likely. I'm actually going to Google it because, once again, I don't like being wrong.
He's kind of like a Marcus Smart type of guy that you want on your team. Exactly.
He doesn't have to average any points to be effective. Where's his stats? Basketball Reference, help me out. Okay, so he averages 4 points per game. Damn, I was way off. Wow.
I didn't think it was that low.
To be fair, my point still stands. His defense is the reason you pick him up. You don't pick him up for offense. He can get you 4.5 points per game, as I just found, but he is not by any means a bad offensive player. but he's a great defender. So I'm talking about Matisse Thybulle and Paul Reed for contract reasons to the Indiana Pacers. For Aaron Nesmith, Chris Duarte, and picks to the 76ers. I had to include picks on this one. I can't be like all my other ones and be like, I don't know, throw picks in if you want, because obviously it's a one-sided trade in the sense for the 76ers. Now, let me give you my reasoning. I wrote down all these notes, so I'll read them off to you. Matisse Thybulle, no, I can't wait for you to hear it. Matisse Thybulle going to the Pacers, in my opinion, just makes sense. They have a serious interior defender, thanks to it is also, I'm trying to read these notes word for word. I'm gonna just sum them up. They have a solid interior defender who's underrated as shit and was just extended, like we were talking about, in Miles Turner. But they need more wing defense. They're not trying to be contenders right now, but Matisse Thybulle's young. So that's not going to be an issue. It's a star. It's not a star. It's a player to build with. It's not going to be a guy that you just, accept and put him with Tyrese Halliburton and just call it a day. The Pacers are already a super solid offensive team. We've seen that with how Tyrese Halliburton runs an offense, whether it's throwing a quick dish out to Buddy Hield, or whether, he's running with the backups and he's throwing a quick dish to Benedict Mathurin. They're a solid offensive team. I honestly think with the offense that they have, they could be a contender. The defense is where you give me an issue. And just because they're young and inexperienced. But I'm not sure if I've ever seen Paul Reed play any minutes in Philly. I knew he existed. He's Willis Reed's son, I think. But I don't know if I've ever seen him do anything.
Players.
But so if for defensive reasons, I think that the Pacers should pick him up, whether it's in trade or if it's in free agency. I don't know if he's an expiring contract. Maybe he is. My research was very vague for this podcast. But then we go to the 76ers side. Think about what the 76ers are getting here. You're a Celtics fan. You've dealt with Aaron Nesmith. What is the one thing that man can do? And it rhymes with ooting.
Shooting.
That man, he's got a strap. That man's got a strap. He can shoot. It's an inconsistent shooting, but on one night, he could give you 5 threes. Imagine what the 76ers could do with that. And then we have Chris Duarte, which, if you remember last year, his rookie year, out of nowhere, just decided to be a good player when he wasn't supposed to be. I believe he was undrafted or a second-round pick. And out of nowhere, he was one of the top offensive options for the Pacers. Granted, it is the Pacers, but I sure as hell know a lot of players that aren't putting up minutes on the Pacers, and they're not Chris Duarte. That man can go out there and give you a solid 14, 15 points, not per game, but he can go out there and give you a solid 14 or 15 on a random-ass night. But that with James Harden, obviously he's not going to be running that many minutes with him, but James Harden does run some minutes with the bench whenever Tyrese Halliburton is either injured or whether Tyrese is tired and needs his own timeout. Imagine a man who, like James Harden, who's already averaging 11 assists with PJ Tucker and Joel Embiid as 2 of his 3 best offensive options, if you include Tyrese Maxey as well. I don't know. I don't think it makes the 76ers a contender over the Nets or Celtics. I think it pushes them a little bit further ahead than where they are.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. I thought you were going to say TJ McConnell for a second when you mentioned Pacers and Sixers. I don't know about Chris Duarte. I know what you're talking about, though. And as for Naismith, in Boston, he was a lottery pick. He was a 14th overall pick a couple years ago. And the way the rotation was, I'm defending the Celtics, by the way. I don't need to, but I feel like I have to. He was battling heavy with Pritchard for minutes. And
100%.
Pritchard won for like shooting reasons. Pritchard's not inconsistent as well, but at the time, like Pritchard was beating him out, and that's why. And plus, we traded him from Malcolm Brogdon, so we kind of stole that trade from him. But yeah, and as for the Pacers, you said Thybulle was what, 24?
I believe Thybulle's 24, between 24 and 26. According to Google, he is 25. So he was exactly between 24 and 26.
So yeah, and as for the Pacers, they're right there for the playoffs. No one expected that, and you'll find out. Like the season's just really good for them. You'll find out later when we talk about the other thing. I don't want to spoil it. That they're having a pretty good season than we all expected, because we all expected them to rebuild, trade Turner, trade Hield. So I think adding a defensive guy like Thybulle wouldn't be bad. And for the Sixers, so they should be damn near perfect, but it's just not showing. And I mean, my problem with the Sixers is they try to add so many pieces at once and reunite the Houston Rockets with Daniel House, with PJ Tucker,
100%.
Harden, and all that stuff. And I mean, they're getting it together slowly, but I feel like they make a move. But I mean, that's pretty good. I like it. And then they made Thibault available, so this trade can happen. Like they're not willing to hold on to him. They're willing to trade him up. So yeah, maybe they look into that. And for the Pacers, it works. I like it. It's a win-win.
100%. I think it is a win-win either way, too. And like you said, obviously the 76ers are willing to trade him. The trade that I saw when researching, which was non-extensive research at all for this podcast, was that Matisse Thybulle is expected to be traded to the Kings. And I like it for the Kings, too. They are a playoff team, and that is hard for me to swallow. I mean, 16 or 17 years of not being a playoff team? It's hard for me to swallow that the Kings.
2004, they made the playoffs.
So, 19 years then. If they make it this year, it would end the streak at 19 years.
Almost 2 decades.
Right. Almost Vince Carter's career. Like that, they haven't made the playoffs since I was 19. I'm 23 years old. I don't remember the Kings in the playoffs. So
I know it's around that area. I remember hearing 04. So, I mean, if that's wrong, it's around that range.
Regardless, it's a long ass drought.
Over a decade.
And I'm glad the Beam team is the team that's doing it because they are fun to watch. I don't know if you've caught a Kings game this year, but they are fun to watch. Domantas Sabonis pisses me off because the one night I bet on him, it was negative 7,000 odds. I bet on him to get 10 points. He ended with 9 points and 9 turnovers. So that pissed me off. But other than that, they're just such a fun team. De'Aaron Fox is one of the most elite finishers in the entire NBA. I don't know about his stats this year, but last year, this is the only advanced stat I'm going to throw out throughout this entire podcast. But last year, he was the number 1 finisher at the rim. And that is, standing layups, driving layups. These are talking about floaters. At the rim, he was the number 1 finisher in the league. And the closest guard, I believe, was 10 to 15 spots behind him. Like he's that guy. He's fun to watch. He's fast. He's athletic.
So according to Bleacher Report, he's averaging 24 points and 6 assists and 4 rebounds.
And that, I don't know what his stats have been like before this. I don't know off the top of my head, but that sounds like a career year to me. So yeah, they're a playoff team, and I like to see it. Now let's move on to our next segment. And personally, this is my favorite segment because now we've had enough time. We've talked about trades. My drinks have settled in. I don't know about yours, but they've settled in quite well. And when people drink, they get in their feels. Now, I'm not about to cry on this podcast, but I do want to know your feelings on a couple things. So I'm going to mention something to you or mention a storyline in the NBA, and you tell me your true feelings, and then I'll tell you mine. And it's going to be like a heart-to-heart, bro-to-bro moment. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm down for it. I'm down for it.
Just, we're not crying. We're not crying. That's the one. It's my one stipulation. So LeBron James, this is easily the biggest storyline in NBA history, if you really want to be honest. Every media outlet is talking about it. LeBron James is, as of right now, at the recording of this video, and that is not including the Knicks game that is happening while we're recording this, 89 points away from breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record of 38,387 points. Maybe it's 86. It's one of the two. He's playing the Pacers, like I said. Oh, he's not playing the Knicks. He's playing the Pacers. Jesus. Yeah. He's playing the Pacers as we record this. So by the end of that game, he'll probably be like, 56 points away? He'll probably score 34. But tell me your feelings on LeBron James becoming the NBA's all-time scoring leader.
Okay, so I did cheat a little bit, and I looked at the game. He only has 17 entering the fourth, so
he's saving it. He's saving it for later.
Yeah. So as far as like the game on Tuesday, that's projected. I don't know if you saw the article. The tickets are $92,000.
100%, and I don't got that kind of money.
I don't. Unless you're like freaking Drake or a YouTuber, like yeah, maybe. But like yeah, so I mean, I think. He in his head, he's gonna tell the media he doesn't care. He cares. He's dropped 40 points multiple times. He wants it. And I feel like when he does that, the Jordan fans are gonna be pissed off. But I feel like at that point, you really can't say anything about him. I know.
Continue.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I know like he's close to your heart because he left your city, but so I mean, you should be more hurt about it. And I know he's destroyed the Celtics in the past, so I mean, I'm not happy about it, but give respect when respect is due.
I think it's safe to say we're both LeBron haters. You're a Celtics fan. I live in Ohio, so he's pissed off every Ohioan ever for leaving twice. The second time was much more like we were okay with it than the first time. Obviously, we didn't burn jerseys the second time, but without giving your reason, this is throwing this at you without telling you about it before the podcast. Without giving your reason, tell me, are you a LeBron or Jordan guy? I just want to know the answer. I don't need the reasoning.
Jordan.
Interesting. I can respect that. Now, I think with him passing, actually, let me ask you this. I'll ask you another question. What is your prediction for the game that he will break it? Do you think it'll be against the Thunder or the Bucks? Because those are the two games that is big.
Who do they play after Bucks? Is what I want to know. Because I thought he was somehow like rigged to face like Cleveland or Miami, but I mean, I would guess as of now he'll be in the 300s. I would say Tuesday. I don't think he does it for Sunday.
Okay, interesting. So Tuesday is the game against the Thunder. Next Thursday is the Bucks. I'm personally choosing the Bucks for the only reason that Kareem played for the Bucks and it's a home game, and if it's in LA, Kareem is more likely to be there. I don't know if Kareem is going to show up for the games that LeBron is going to be close or the home games that he's going to be there. But it's also a nationally televised game, and the Thunder is not. Now, if LeBron is within 30 points, I'm sure they're going to nationally televise the Thunder game and change that. But as of right now, my current pick is the Bucks, just because I don't know if you remember this quote. I don't remember if it's from LeBron or Kareem, but someone asked one of them what their relationship with the other is. And I think, and I believe this is all off of top of my head after drinking. I don't know. I believe one of them said we have no relationship, or they gave a very vague answer that really kept us guessing. So I'm guessing LeBron might want to stick it to Kareem if they don't have a relationship and be like, look, I'm going to do it in your old city in your city against your other city, two teams you play for. I'm going to do it then. And then I still believe I'm still one of the casuals who thinks he's going to do it against the Bucks with a hook shot, because why the fuck not?
Yeah, and I feel that, and I feel like in terms of the Thunder game, he might not play it, if I'm being realistic, especially if they win today. But if he does end up playing, I don't think he drops a good amount of points on it. And I just think in terms of what he's thinking, I don't know if he actually personally plans it or cares about it, but I feel like NBA would lose a lot of money if he did it versus Thunder against the Bucks.
100%. I think there's a possibility let's say he's 54 points away by the time they play the Thunder. I don't know. But let's say they're 54 points away. What are the chances he drops 53 and exits the game? I think personally, this is more important to LeBron than winning in this sense. I mean, this is all-time record. This is 5 years ago. We weren't talking about LeBron maybe breaking the record in his career because we were like, there's no way. It is the most unbreakable record in NBA history. We did not imagine that anyone would ever have that amount of dominance for that long like Kareem did. I mean, Kareem played, 21 seasons, averaging 20 points per game in 20 of them, or maybe 19 of them? That's insane. It's not comprehensible. I mean, of course he was averaging 34, 35 at one point with the Bucks. But I think against the Bucks just makes the most sense to me. I didn't bet on this one because I have recently become into sports betting, because as a lot of Ohioans know, in every other state that just became legal as of January 1st, we've all been betting. There's a shit ton of ads everywhere that are like $200 for your free first bet or whatever. So we've all been sports betting, and there's props available. And currently the favorite for him to do it is the Thunder. I would bet on it if I wasn't so uncertain. I believe that the NBA is going to nationally televise whatever game he does on. Whether it's ESPN or TNT, they're going to figure out a deal. If he's within 20 points away or within 30 points away, they're going to nationally televise that game. But I do want to point out one thing. Let me throw back to your past real quick. If anyone remembers watching this podcast, remember when David was basketball alert? Does anyone remember this? I do. I sure do. And David, his maybe most popular video as Basketball Alert was calling LeBron Mickey James. I just want to. I just want to know if it was a troll or not. Were you trolling? Like just for the views, just for the fun? I don't care if it's for either of them. I just want to know because like Mickey James, come on, that is an all-time low of the nicknames.
Why are you forgetting A Disney?
I will give you that. I am leaving out A Disney purposely.
So this was 2 years ago, so I don't know where my mind was at that time. I didn't want Lakers to tie the record for Celtics at the championships. I did not. So my ego got in the way. Did I think that was an easy ring? Possibly because it was in the bubble, but yeah, I mean the views, 7 million views, 8 million views, 6 million views, 2 million views.
Can you tell me just real quick, and then we will take another break for our sponsor. Would you please tell me, like, what was going through your like when you got all these views from, no offense, a dumb video because it was real fast. It was just
That was filmed at 1 a.m. my time, and I posted at 1 a.m. my time.
and that's saying a lot because you're in the latest time zone in America. What was your feeling when you just woke up? And I don't know if it's when you woke up or whenever you saw this video was gaining that much traction.
What was I feeling?
What was your feeling just of like, I just called LeBron James, in a lot of people's minds, including mine, I might add, the greatest player to ever touch the pigskin. Pigskin's football. Whatever the hell a basketball is made of.
It's the alcohol ball.
Well, like what was going through your mind when you saw that it had that many views when you called him Mickey James? Shout out to Disney, by the way. I am employed by Disney, so.
But yeah, I mean, what my mindset when the views were going up, I believe I woke up and it was at like 200K, and I refreshed it 300K and stuff like that. And then you know how TikTok works, is you blew up off that same casualty. You had one go viral, then the next one went viral, and the next one went viral. So my logic was posting as many as I can before Lakers won the championship, or like went to the finals or whatever. So like the views were good, and at first I was like, yeah, I'm joking. Like after like the series ended, I apologized to all the Laker fans because like I'm in California. The closest basketball team is the Lakers. San Diego doesn't have a team, so my For You page is mostly them. So that was it was interesting because I was getting death threats on DMs. I don't know if anyone knows this. I was getting death threats on DMs like I hope you die, burn in a fire, everything. Like the backlash of those videos didn't weigh out the views. It almost didn't.
100%. I can agree with that. This is not on topic at all. And after I say this, we will go to break. I can understand the hate that comes through TikTok, and it's shitty. And I bet all 23 people who are probably listening to this right now, I bet no one thought they would hear that kind of story today. And I'm happy you shared it because
and I don't think I've said the story.
That's part of being a TikToker, because you got to understand who most of our audiences are as TikTokers. And of course, I've done a lot less TikTok than I do now. Obviously, this podcast is on YouTube. I put a lot more focus into YouTube. I still post on TikTok, of course, because it's one of the greatest apps there is as far as engagement. But like, that's the kind of thing that comes with it. The audience on TikTok is 13 to 16-year-olds who still haven't learned the lesson of whatever I say could come back and bite me in the ass. But we're going to move on. Let me introduce to you the sponsor of our video, who you've probably already heard before, Jersey Frost. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. This is me recording this the day after I filmed this podcast, and I can tell you I'm not enjoying it anymore. But let me tell you about the sponsor of today's podcast. The sponsor of the podcast is Jersey Frost. If you've never heard of Jersey Frost, they sell really high quality jerseys for a really low price of $40. You couldn't tell me whether this Donovan Mitchell jersey was real or not, because it's got all the tags and all that, and you can get it from Jersey Frost for $40. And if you use code Crafty at checkout, you get an additional 10% off. So like you get money off jerseys and you get cool jerseys for a cheap price. Wow. It's official that the aftermath of this podcast has gotten to me. So let's just go right back in with the podcast. All right, and once again, thank you for the word from our sponsor. I have had quite a few drinks and I am having a great time. How about you, David?
I'm getting there.
You're getting there. All right, listen. You're a Celtics fan, and the Celtics are essentially the same team as last year, but with the addition of Malcolm Brogdon and Blake Griffin. Do you think they're the favorites to win the title or just to win the East? Whichever one you want to answer, tell me your feelings.
Only one I'm really scared about is the Bucks because, like I said, we beat them in the playoffs last year. They were without Middleton, but I'm fully confident that if they make that adjustment, obviously, if we had Gallinari, I would be fully confident. Of course, he had to play out of the league and got hurt. But yeah, the way they're playing and Joe Mazzulla, the role that he had to take over, he became their head coach 8 days before training camp. So the fact that they went through all this and have the best record out of the East and West right now, I do think right now they're the best team in basketball.
I agree. I think they are the best team in basketball. As a Mavericks fan, I gotta admit, we suck, so I can't even argue. But I will say with the Gallinari thing, I can't be mad about certain players playing outside of the country. But because of that, Luka is playing at an MVP level because he's finally in shape. Can we get a thank God? But thank you for your quick feelings on that. I appreciate you sharing your feelings with us here on Shot for Shot. I will throw this in there real quick, just in case I get any lawsuits or any other reason for that. Please drink responsibly. Please do not drink irresponsibly because that is irresponsible.
And we are over the age.
And we are over the age. No underage drinking is forbidden on the Shot for Shot podcast, and everyone who will be featured will be over the age of 21 years old. David, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
24, Kobe.
See, 24. He's in his Kobe year. He's over his Michael year. And he's over his 21-year-old, which I don't know. I can't think of a famous player off the top of my head that wore number 21. So he's of age is the point. Now, listen, Nikola Jokic, the most unathletic and probably the fattest NBA player in the NBA, is averaging a triple-double as of the recording of this video. Tell me your feelings.
So so the funny thing about it is for some reason I've never heard him talk. And I heard him talk and I was pleasantly surprised because he sounds Russian. He's not Russian, but he sounded Russian at first glance to me. So like that's just the first thing that popped in my head. And as for Jokic, man, he might be the greatest offensive center we've ever seen. And by the way, if you guys don't know, he was the last pick of his draft and a Taco Bell commercial played over him. So, and then to think that he's a two-time MVP. Nuggets are probably behind the Celtics as favorites. I love everything he's doing. He's making everyone look good. He's having Aaron Gordon have a career year. And like I said, Jokic, I think he's the best center in the NBA.
You know what? I agree. And I will go a step further because Luka is almost officially out of MVP contention unless we go undefeated the rest of the season. Then Luka's back in MVP contention. I think Jokic is easily going to become the third three-time MVP or three-peat MVP in NBA history. I don't remember one of them, but I remember the other one was Larry Bird. And I believe that puts Jokic in some elite competition. He's averaging a triple-double, okay? And we've seen Jokic in a lot of examples. I think last year he averaged, 27, 8, and 8. The year before, he averaged 26. This is a guess, by the way. He averaged 26, 7, and 7. And he won MVP in those years. But with the added storyline, or not even just the added storyline, but the added historical significance of him averaging a triple-double. Also adding the fact that his team is number 1 in the West, I believe, or maybe number 2 by now. I don't know.
They are. And second best team in the NBA.
So second best team in the NBA, number 1 in the West. I think that makes Jokic the MVP. The only reason I won't tell you that Jason Tatum is the MVP, which, to be honest, at the beginning of the year, it looked like Jason Tatum was running away with it. I think the only reason I won't consider him the MVP right now is because of his bad games that he has had. Jokic hasn't had any games that we can look at and be like, that was a bad game by Jokic. Now, bad game by Jokic is a different standard than bad game by Tatum. Bad game by Tatum is 13 points, 0 and 0, and he's just scoring and he missed 26 shots while he was at it. A bad game by Jokic is if he has 17, 5, and 5. That's a bad game by Jokic. And 17, 5, and 5 is a player that teams would beg for. That's a first-round pick type of trade in my brain. I believe he's going for MVP number 3. I believe voter fatigue doesn't mean shit because we've heard players.
I agree.
I'm glad you agree.
I don't believe in voter fatigue. If he deserves it, he deserves it.
I do believe in voter fatigue in the sake of LeBron James and Michael Jordan because, you could argue both of them should have more MVPs than they do. But with someone like Jokic, you can argue his first MVP should have went to Giannis. It should have went to I can't remember 3 years ago. You could argue it should have went to someone else, but at this point, he's won to it. Joel. You could have argued both of them went to Joel at that point, but at this point, you can't argue it. He is easily, as of right now, the best player in the NBA. Anyone who said he doesn't impact winning because he was a 6th seed last year, I believe they were the 6th seed or the 5th seed. You can't argue that anymore. They're the number one team, and he, as you said, makes players better. Aaron Gordon, and I haven't looked at the All-Star reserves yet, which we will look at in a second. Aaron Gordon could be an All-Star this year. And I will say that prematurely before we look at these. Aaron Gordon could be an All-Star this year, and it is not Aaron Gordon's doing. It is Nikola Jokic's. 100%. He's averaging like 17 and 7 a game right now, which you wouldn't consider an All-Star unless they were the number one team in the West.
Yeah, and as for I just want to say this real quick. The reason Tatum won't win MVP is not because of the reason you said, but it's because of one player, and that's Jaylen Brown, averaging 27 points a game. Like, you're going to give him MVP when your runner-up is averaging 27, which I'd rather have Jaylen Brown than have Tatum win MVP. I'd rather have Jaylen Brown.
And I agree with that standpoint. That just proves why the Celtics are going to win a championship in the next 3 years. I guarantee it. They will. I can't say that about the Mavericks. But you can say that about the Celtics because they have a second star. Not only a second star, like in the Maverick sense, we just want someone who will average like 19 a game, maybe 20 a game. That's all we want. You guys have someone. I don't know Jaylen Brown's stats off the top of my head, but I believe it's like 24 points per game right now.
27.
And he's averaging 27? Jesus, I suck at looking at stats. Like that's.
It's like 26.8 now because he didn't. Yeah, but it's around. It was at 27 the last time I checked.
He's one of my favorite players to bet on because he's overshadowed by Tatum. And Jaylen Brown is a number one option, not only on most teams, but on, and I'm going to make the bold take, I believe he's a number one option on every other team other than the Celtics. Okay, hold on. I forgot about the Mavericks. Okay, he ain't going over to Luka. But on at least 27 of the NBA teams, he is the number one option. I mean, if you put him on the Nuggets, he's the number one option. Jokic is averaging 25. Imagine if Jaylen Brown didn't have to sit behind someone who averaged 30. Imagine that.
31.1.
Okay. Someone's got the stats in front of them, or they're a Celtics fan. It's one of the two. I want to review the NBA All-Stars. Do you have the NBA.com article pulled up?
I have the selections.
Okay. So if you don't mind, could you please pull up the NBA.com article? That's what I have up, and I just want to make sure I don't see anything because I know you have already looked at these prematurely, and I have not. Ooh, burped. Oh, there was another one. And I really don't want to look at these until... Why don't you just read them all to me? Read the West to me.
East or West?
Whichever comes up first on your phone. Just read them all to me. I will give you my reaction.
Okay, but it's your podcast, East or West?
I don't give a shit. East? The Mavs are in the West. Never mind. The Mavs are in the West. Throw the Mavs. I know we're not going to have any second players, but just do the West.
Okay, so John Morant.
Easy.
The next one, round of applause. He got his dues. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Should have been. I don't see a reason why he shouldn't be an all-star. If you're averaging over 27 points per game, you're an all-star. Little alone, what is he averaging now? 31.1, I think.
Yeah, he's going. I don't know his stats off the bat. I only know Tatum's, but
I respect it. Celtics fan.
okay, I'm gonna skip the next one. I'm gonna save that for last. Dame Dalla.
100%. He just dropped 42 and 10 the other night. That's inexcusable not to put him in the All-Star game. He's putting the blazers on his back, as he's always done.
The next one, you were talking about him earlier, Domantas Sabonis.
Should be an all-star. Definitely not a starter. I agree with him not being a starter, but I think off the top of my head, he's averaging like 25 and 10, maybe 23 and 10, something like that.
Okay. Next up, Clippers, Paul George.
Iffy. I understand because of his name and what he's done in past. It makes sense. But if he would have been a snub, I wouldn't have been mad.
Okay, there's two more for the West. The next one is a round of applause. Lauri Markkanen, everybody.
Hell yeah. Can we tell you? Hold on. Lauri Markkanen's an all-star? Like, that's for real. You're not joking with me, right?
No, I swear.
Dude,
The
that's
last
awesome.
one I picked you up, but Lauri Markkanen, we need a round of applause. And now, if you had to take a guess on who the last spot went to.
It's in the West?
Yes.
Give it to Aaron Gordon. I talked about him earlier. It's Aaron Gordon, isn't it?
Jaren Jackson Jr. I told you.
Jaren Jackson Jr.? He made the All-Star game?
That's the one I knew. After the report just came that the at-home games, they rig his stats. I don't know if you guys looked at that article from Reddit.
NBA, let me talk to you real quick. At NBA, I don't care what fucking social media you're watching this on. NBA, you were telling me this. Okay, you're right. You told me earlier this would piss me off, and it does. You're telling me right now there was an easy chance to save the All-Star game. Not the All-Star game, sorry, the dunk contest. There was an easy chance to save the dunk contest. Aaron Gordon said if he would be an All-Star, that he would be in the dunk contest. And you didn't rig this? I'm sorry. What? Are you kidding me? The NBA dunk contest right now, off the top of my head, the dudes I know in that game are Mac McClung and Shadon Sharp. And you're telling me right now, there's some other dudes I know, just not right now.
The one from the G League, I know that.
Mac McClung easily, he's in the G League, but we saw his high school highlights. Man can dunk. But Jaren Jackson Jr., I understand he can block some shots, but he's having a shitty season. I'm pissed. You're right. I am thoroughly pissed. That's a dumbass selection. I'm sorry. I understand, but it's wrong.
Another stat that I need to point out is he's only played 7 more games than Anthony Davis, who didn't make the team.
Oh, hold on. I didn't even think about that. Anthony Davis didn't make it, but Jaren Jackson? What? Anthony Davis, when he has played, has averaged a historic stat line. Historic.
Almost a starter. He was fighting with Zion for the starting spot.
And he lost to Jaren Jackson Jr.? I'm Googling this. Hold on. Jaren, this is on my second monitor, I would like to point out. Okay, not a flex that I have 2 monitors, but just for fun. He's averaging 15. What? Hold on. What the hell? He's averaging.
I was pissed.
He's averaging 15.9 points. What? Okay, hold on. We're comparing stats. I know I said on this podcast we will not look at stats all that much, but
I should have went for the East first. I'm sorry.
we're looking at stats right now. Okay, Jaren Jackson Jr. averages 16 points per game. I don't know what he averaged last season, but he's averaging 16 now. 35% from 3. The standards have changed. In the 90s, that would have been in the 3-point contest. Right now, that's mid. It's fucking mid. Okay? He's averaging 5.5 rebounds. He's a big man. Did you know that? He's a fucking big man. He averages less than 1 assist. Cool. That's so cool. He averages 2 blocks a game, but I'd like to add the conspiracy that everyone can look at right now. Oh, I'm looking at his career. Hold on, let me restart. 16.5 points per game, 36% from 3, 7 rebounds. That's still shit. Okay? Not shit. It's pretty good. I couldn't do that. Less than assists per game, 3.3 blocks. May I add that we notice an increase in his blocks and steals per game at the Memphis Grizzlies Stadium? What's Aaron Gordon's stats? Let's read Aaron Gordon's. Let's just read it. It should have been Aaron Gordon or Anthony Davis. I can understand Anthony Davis. He's been out for the last 7.5 years. But let's look at Aaron Gordon.
Fox didn't make it either. That's crazy.
Who didn't?
Fox. De'Aaron Fox.
I'm pissed. Don't even fucking talk to me right now. 17. Aaron Gordon's averaging 17. That's more than Jaren Jackson Jr. 38% from 3. That's more than Jaren Jackson Jr. 6.8 rebounds. That's a little bit less. I'll give him that. 2.7 assists. It's almost 3 assists per game. That's better than Jaren fucking Jackson Jr. And his defense. I don't give a shit. If you're looking at the All-Star game, who plays defense? Tell me. Please, David, I'm begging you. Tell me who in the All-Star game plays defense.
And the All-Star game, no.
Exactly.
It's for fun, and I get the new changes, but like when I saw that, and then by the way, I told you this stat, Jaren Jackson has played 7 games more than AD and only 12 minutes more in those 7 games. I get it hot right now, but like I should have went with the East first. The East doesn't have many, has one surprise, but that's about it.
You know what? I don't give a shit about the East anymore. Jaren Jackson Jr. The NBA had the perfect opportunity to revive the dunk contest that, as everyone, including the NBA, I'm sure they know, has been shit. The best dunk last year was Cole fucking Anthony in Timberlands. Okay, let me explain something to you about my 5'6" self. I used to be able to dunk a woman's ball. Okay, maybe not a man's ball, but a woman's ball. I know it's smaller, but I understand it. Back in my prime, I'm 21 years old, so my prime was like 3 years ago. Back in my prime, I could dunk a woman's ball. And it was easy. I could dunk a woman's ball easy. So I bet you I could dunk a woman's ball in Timberlands. I don't own a pair, but I can tell you I could do it. Now let's think with our brains, okay? Let's think about what I could do if I was 6'3", much more athletic, and played basketball. Okay? I can do that. Okay. Please tell me
he doesn't deserve it. I'm pause. He doesn't deserve this All-Star selection.
I think he is an underrated basketball player. Do I think he's an All-Star? Absolutely the fuck not. Absolutely not. I hate this. And I am done comparing his stats to Aaron Gordon. The NBA had a chance to revive the dunk contest and bring back one of the greatest dunk contest dunkers of NBA history. The man who's been robbed twice. And they said, fuck him. Fuck him. He's having an all-star caliber season. And they give it, read me the East. I'm done.
Okay. The East, the 2 for sure, Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown.
100%.
The next one, I guess there's not many choices for big man. Bam Adebayo.
You froze. Please read that name again.
Bam Adebayo.
I understand.
Julius Randle deserves it.
He's overrated, but yes.
DeMar DeRozan.
If DeMar didn't make it, I would have been pissed. I texted you before this podcast and I thought I saw a tweet that DeMar didn't make it. And then you let me know that DeMar did make it. I read a tweet wrong. But
yeah,
DeMar should have made it, 100%.
Next up is Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday made the All-Star game? I'm not mad about it. I love that pick. I'm just intrigued if the NBA gave it to him. That makes him a first-time All-Star, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm checking basketball.
The next one is a round of applause picks. I'm gonna wait till you're focused.
Yeah, hold on. Let me look at Drew Holiday just to make sure it's a first-time pick. I believe it is, but I just want to. That's one of those things.
You don't spoil the last one because I really want to say it.
I'm not going to ruin it. I'm using Basketball Reference just to see. Basketball Reference says one-time
I
All-Star, but I'm curious if it's talking about this year. And it's not. In 2012, 2013, he was an All-Star. In case I didn't know that. So that's good information.
Okay, last one. Round of applause. Indiana Pacers' own Tyrese Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton, 100%. We love that pick. That pick is great. He's having one of the best playmaking seasons we've seen since Steve Nash. It's very gorgeous. I love the way he plays. I don't know if anyone has watched Shanae Glumake's breakdown. It was maybe a month ago of the way Tyrese Halliburton sees the court. It is exquisite. He looks off the players he knows who are going to be caught up by a defender who's in the paint and knows when a player's defender is so far away, and he does it within seconds. I love that pick.
Now, two notable snubs that
Please
people are saying on Twitter is James Harden.
Understand he is averaging 11 assists per game, but I don't know who I'd replace him with in the East.
And then the other one is Trae Young.
I don't give a shit about Trae. I'm a Mavericks fan. I don't give a shit. Tell me real quick, because he missed the All-Star game last year, didn't he? I think he did.
Who, Harden? Yeah, I know Harden was.
No, Trae Young specifically is who I'm talking about.
I don't remember. He might have been.
Harden, I'm a little more upset about. Can you repeat to me who the guards are that are in the All-Star game for the East?
Drew Holiday, Tyrese Halliburton.
Who are the starters for the East? That would be Donovan Mitchell and
Kyrie.
I don't know, man. This is one of those things where it's like the NBA is so talented that James Harden doesn't make the All-Star game. Because I can't tell you which one of those two he belongs over. I think Tyrese Halliburton has had a more impressive season than James Harden.
My issue with this is I thought Pascal should have made it.
100%. Pascal Siakam is having an All-NBA type season, let alone
averaging, I think 26. I might be wrong, but it's somewhere around there. I mean, Bam Adebayo, I feel like he's having a really mid-season. I feel like they just needed size.
Let me look at his stats. We'll find out. Like I said, this podcast is about hanging out with a buddy and talking basketball, but sometimes you might look up stats. So it'll be a rare occasion. He's averaging 25, 8, and 6,
Bam
which is an
Adebayo?
All-Star season. Oh, shit. Sorry. I looked up Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, I know Pascal's doing good. But
Wait,
Bam,
so you said Pascal missed it?
No, he didn't make it.
He's having a career season, and he's only a one-time All-Star. Pascal Siakam might go down at the end of his career as one of the most underrated NBA players of all time. But
I want him to get moved so badly.
If he was on a decent team, he'd get love, like any team. So Bam Adebayo, granted, is averaging 21, 10, and 3.
Okay, so that I understand why they chose it.
I understand it, but hold on, let me think. Pascal's also in the East.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Pascal Siakam's stat line is better. But I can't get too mad at any of these picks except for fucking Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, and the sad part is the coaches pick these things.
Yes, to be 100% fair, I can understand Bam Adebayo over Pascal Siakam. That makes sense. It does. But if you're going to pick fucking Jaren Jackson Jr. over Aaron Gordon, I'm sorry. I can't give up to the fact that the NBA ruined the dunk contest. I can't. Trey Murphy, that's who I was thinking of earlier when I said I know who's in this dunk contest, but I don't. Trey Murphy. Pick him the fuck out and put in Aaron Gordon. And you know how you get Aaron Gordon to agree to do the dunk contest? He already told you. He said, if I'm an all-star, make him an all-star. He's having one of the best seasons of his career. Let me look at his stats over his career. It might be the best over his entire career. He's played from 2015 to 2013. This is the best season of his career. And you didn't make him an all-star.
Yeah, I mean, like, even not putting AD, that still kind of hurts. I thought AD deserved it. But yeah, I mean, when I saw that, and I saw you saw the article from Reddit, right?
No, I don't look on Reddit. I will remind you, though, we do have 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll just say it real quick. Las Vegas removed the award for Defensive Player of the Year because there's rumors that at home games they escalate Jaren Jackson's stats.
That's what I was talking about earlier when I said that his stats been elevated at home games. He averages, I think it's 120% more steals and 80 something percent more blocks at
Which
home.
is nearly impossible to do, by the way, compared to compared to away games. So I personally don't know if I believe it because I don't know management how that works around there, but it's fishy how you're good at home.
It appears we have lost David for a second. Oh, we lost you for a second. Please tell me, the last words we heard were fishy at home.
Yeah, I mean it's fishy at home, but like you're not as good at away games. Like you can't like if it's close, okay, but if you're way off, I feel like people have no choice. I feel like NBA is going to investigate it regardless, but still, the fact that Las Vegas removed it from betting odds for Depoy of the Year because right now Jaren Jackson is supposed to win it because of this.
I would say that, I mean, granted, my information was based off 2 weeks ago, and I haven't relooked at defensive rating. And I mean, I work at ESPN. I see a lot of stats all day, so maybe I've overlooked some. My personal pick for Depoy would be Brook Lopez, and that was based off of 2 weeks ago, at least 2 weeks ago.
I agree. I don't look much at Depoy, but that was the one. That would have been my choice.
But yeah, no, that's interesting. I would say for the most part, I think the NBA got the All-Star game right. It's getting progressively harder to choose players who are All-Stars because
Especially in the East now, because there's a lot of options you could have chose. Like Pascal Siakam and Trae Young and Dejounte Murray did not make it.
yeah, DeJounte, I understand. I mean, he was barely scooted into the All-Star game last year. I don't know his stats as of this year, but I'm sure they're somewhere around 27 and 7 with a steal and a half per game. Actually, let's look.
I just want to know your thoughts on James Harden not making it. Do you think that they got it right?
I don't know. I think
He's pissed about it. I don't know. He's posting about it on Historian, so I haven't seen it, but I'm just getting notifications as we speak that he's pissed.
So I said DeJounte's stats are probably 27 and 7. It's actually 21, 5, and 6. Ooh, excuse my burping. I have drank today quite a bit. That's the point of the podcast. No, DeJounte, yeah. I mean,
One of the Hawks duo should have made it.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think they got it right.
I'll cover a couple things, and then we'll go ahead and end the show because we have 6 minutes left in our Zoom recording. Shout out to Zoom for only giving us 40 minutes at a time, which obviously I don't know what this podcast looks like, but I'm sure it's like an hour and a half by now. We're in a different era in the NBA. 5 years ago, DeJounte Murray makes the All-Star game with flying colors and is probably a starter. That's just how the NBA has evolved. We're looking at an era where James Harden, who once was averaging 36 points per game, I believe I looked at his stats the other day, and I don't know, but I think it's 20 and 11. Let me look at that now. James Harden's averaging 21 and 11 with 6 rebounds. So actually, I'll change my pick. I think he should have made the All-Star game over Tyrese. But the reason people have pushed Tyrese into the All-Star game is
Pacers are in playoff contention.
Yes, they're in playoff contention for the first time in the non-Paul George era. But also at the same time, I mean, think about the story around Tyrese Halliburton. He was traded. Everybody, including a couple ESPN, shout out to my company, analysts, said, they traded the wrong guy. They should have traded De'Aaron over Tyrese Halliburton. And now Tyrese Halliburton is, if I look up his stats, bless you. By the way, if I look at his stats, he's averaging 20 and 10. Like, as far as storylines go, it's hard not to include him. But I feel like it's just as hard not to include Harden. We're in an era.
Sabonis made it too, so before all you guys saying the trade wasn't even and whatever, all this
right.
stuff.
Sabonis made it too. And, you can't trade. You can't, in the All-Star game, include players. Like, it's got to be a certain amount of front court and a certain amount of back court. I believe it's 3 front court, 2 back court. I might have it backwards. The front and back courts always confuse me. But we're in an era where James Harden, who's averaging 20 and 11, who 10 years ago, that's an MVP stat line. considering Steve Nash won it over Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
We're in an era where that's okay. But that's not an NBA All-Star. You can argue that he should be over Tyrese. I would argue he should be over Tyrese, 100%.
No, I think they got it right. I'm just saying what Twitter's consensus of what Snub was.
I will say that I disagree. For storyline purposes, I understand why Tyrese made the All-Star game, but for who's actually the better player, who's actually doing better, who actually has the better stats, James Harden should have made it over Tyrese. I mean, he's on a team that has more wins. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure the 76ers have more wins than the Pacers. And he's averaging a few more rebounds, one more point, and one more assist. To me, it makes sense that James should have made it over him. But, it's the story. The NBA is based off storylines. That's what it is. Michael Jordan's 6 finals wins and everything. That's what the NBA is based off of. They're thinking in their brain business first. And what's Twitter been saying and what's everyone been saying? Tyrese Halliburton deserves an All-Star spot. So they gave him one.
So, I don't think East is as messed up as the West.
No, trust me, y'all heard my reaction.
I didn't expect you to react that way. I knew you were going to be pissed because I was pissed off about it, but
it doesn't make sense. Don't get me started on this again, David. We have 3 minutes before the Zoom is over. It pisses me off that he beat out Aaron Gordon when the NBA had a chance to make the dunk contest good again. Anyway, we have 2 minutes and 50 seconds left in the Zoom recording because we're using the free version of Zoom.
I'm currently buzzed. So.
And I am past buzzed. I probably won't be able to go to sleep for another 4 hours because I am spinning, my guy.
By the way, shout out to him because the Mavericks are, I believe, playing and he's filming this.
Literally, I should be watching the Mavericks right now on StreamEast.com. But
I use that one too.
StreamEast is the best. We're not going to get into that. StreamEast, if you're looking for an illegal stream, though, I will say is the best. If you're looking for a legal stream, just watch nationally televised games. We have 2 minutes left. So, David, I want to thank you for joining the podcast today. It's been a lot of fun. It's went way over the time I said I wanted it to.
Hey, you told me 45 minutes. I'm like, that's not happening.
It's been an hour and a half at the least. I don't even know where we're at right now. But I really appreciate you joining the podcast. I had a lot of fun doing this. I think with me and my guests drinking, we're probably going to go over most of the time. But David, you have 1 minute and 45 seconds. How did you enjoy the podcast today?
I definitely had fun. Did not expect some of the questions about TikTok, but I'm all here for it. If you guys want any more information, DM me personally, or I'll talk about it on another show. And we didn't get into mine and yours past, but maybe we'll say that again for another episode.
Next time David is on the show, we are arguing who is better, Jason Tatum or Doncic, because we've had this argument over the phone before.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get it started. Don't please don't get me started. We're not doing this right now. I'm not sober enough for that.
Me neither. And trust me, next episode we won't be either, but we're still going to argue it. David, I want to thank you so much for joining the podcast. I would give you a chance to advertise your TikTok, but trust me, you haven't seen the overlay yet, but it's on the screen. You will see your TikTok in the recording. I have less than a minute left, so I'm just going to say I love you guys. I appreciate you for listening. All 12 of you who are probably listening to the first episode. I hope you have a fantastic time. David, I will FaceTime you after this. It was really great hearing from you guys and seeing from you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I love you. I'm drunk. Have a fantastic rest of your night.